Well, good morning from Lake Bimidji in Minnesota. Time to head for the Upper Peninsula through Wisconsin. Let's go.
The campground was fine, but I bet there are others not too far away with way fewer people.
Look at this monster.
What in the wide world of swamp monsters is this? I think it's supposed to be a muskie, but I'm about as much of a fisherman as I am an astronaut. Look at those teeth. You guys, I swear the fish was this big. Pro tip, you can make any gloves touchscreen compatible by licking the finger. On the right is Leech Lake, not somewhere I'd like to go skinny dipping. Here's the rail depot in Reamer, Minnesota, and this is the most perfect Minnesota rail line name. Here is downtown Reamer, where they have a meat raffle. I can't say I've ever been to one, but the prizes sure are appealing. I am back on 200 again, making good time through the endless pine forest. And back across to the eastern side of the Mississippi River, though it is considerably less mighty here. I spotted a squiggly line on the map that kept me away from the larger settlements of Duluth and Superior. Sport bikes and windy road signs are always promising. The road and the St. Louis River wind their way through Jay Cooke State Park, which has a neat suspension bridge and a number of structures built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. The rough, rocky river forced early travelers to undertake a difficult portage through steep trails and swamps. The upper railroad part of the Oliver Bridge was opened in 1916, and they added this lower deck a year later, which explains the chicanes to get on and off the bridge. On the other side of the St. Louis River here is Wisconsin, so welcome. This section is a swing bridge that was used by a ferry service until the 1930s, and I believe it has only opened once since. There's lots of neat old railroad stuff in these parts, including that trestle on the left that is now part of an ATV trail system. Iron River gets its name from the reddish hue of the water, but the town was started around the 20th century as part of a logging boom. Now it seems pretty sleepy, but logging's still a big part of the local economy. Not much farther is my first view of Lake Superior, where the muddy creek water mixes with the deep blue lake. A strange, ship-shaped inn is right along the shore. It seems this was a Dodge dealer in the 50s, and maybe earlier. I stopped next door at the Deepwater Grill for some fantastic mac and cheese. I can't visit Wisconsin and not have cheese, right? I know, I miss the cheese curds again, but no refrigeration. Anyway, this is the town of Ashland, which was a pretty major industrial port in the early to mid-1900s, shipping ore and lumber from the nearby area. In the days of Megaplex 24-screen cinemas, it's refreshing to see old theaters still doing well. I really enjoy the aesthetic of Main Street in Middle America. Back on the road again, I witnessed some bizarre Harley behavior. This guy was riding on the wrong side of the road until the car going the other way was nearly upon him. He did this at least half a dozen times. Welcome to pure Michigan, whatever that's supposed to mean. I'm in the UP now, which by all logic should be part of Wisconsin, but since both Michigan and Ohio both wanted Toledo for some reason, Congress gave Michigan the UP as a consolation prize. So I just hit the reserve, which means I have about 50 miles left, but the last two gas stations were closed because there was no power, and this one's closed because there's no power, and there's no internet. There's a very little bit amount of internet. I can't tell how big these towns are and who might or might not have power. Well, that one's definitely not open.
Oh, am I glad to see a gas station with power. That's not so bad. Gas reserve is bigger than I thought.
So apparently I just missed a major wind and rainstorm that knocked out power to a large swath of the western UP. And I'm back on Lake Superior again. This little town is named Christmas, Michigan, which explains the year-round Santa stuff. Just down the road is the Munising Front Range Lighthouse. I had some delicious fish and chips nearby from Captain Ron's food truck, and then it was time to find a campsite. I had mapped a few campsite options, but they all seemed to be full, even the dispersed ones. But I had fun wandering around the sandy two-track in Hiawatha National Forest. This area reminds me quite a bit of the Pine Barrens back in New Jersey, and I mean that in a good way. It's got little sandy roads winding their way through the forest. Though I can't say I've noticed logging on this scale in the Pine Barrens. After 3 completely full campsites, I finally found this one in the Hiawatha National Forest, and it really looks like the last one that was available. So, oh boy, Friday nights, everyone wants to go camping. Me too, I guess. Maybe next time wait for a little bit longer before you open the can of beer after it's been sitting on the bike. Super pretty trees here. The campsite was on Pete's Lake, which was named for an old guy who really liked fishing here. I rode 503 miles today from Bimidji, Minnesota to Hiawatha National Forest in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Well, it was too good to be true. The rightful owners of the campsite showed up at 1:15 in the morning. We shared the campsite, but they were gone at 6 something in the morning. And I didn't get very good sleep.
There was no indication of the site being reserved on the post in front of the site, and it seems awfully strange to come camping after 1 a.m. only to leave first thing in the morning. These forest roads were a terrific way to start the day. I followed as many of these little dirt roads as I could on my way to the shore of Lake Michigan, including an old railroad grade. I found this old brick water tower in Manistique. It was built in the 1920s and is unlike any water tower I've ever seen. I got some coffee and breakfast along the Manistique River, right by the Manistique Lighthouse. I had weaned myself off of coffee for the trip, but a poor night's sleep ended that.
It's such a cute little lighthouse.
These Lake Michigan fishing boats are pretty unusual. I've never seen anything quite like it. A little to the east is the Sasquatch Point Lighthouse. Its name means only choice in French and refers to the fact that it has the only harbor in an area of treacherous coast. This point has incredible views of the lake in every direction. This hatch is to keep any incidents with the original oil burning lamp from burning the whole structure down. It's a tight fit with moto gear. Only 96 steps to clomp down in these boots. Ooh, neat. I get one last gravel road before really starting to make tracks for home. Has anyone else noticed the names they give RVs are awful? There's so much more to explore in the UP, and I'll have to come back, but this was a great way to avoid Chicago and get a little sightseeing in while doing it. I had been seeing lots of signs for smoked fish, and I was curious.
They really got a Bigfoot thing around here, don't they?
I just needed to find a nice place to enjoy my newly acquired smoked fish. So here's that smoked trout. I didn't get a smoked whitefish because the thing was 2 feet long. And there's no way I was eating all of it. But, let's see how this goes. Okay, really salty. Well, we'll see how much of this I eat. Maybe it's one of those acquired tastes. Just gotta watch out for bones. These things are nasty looking. Look at the view of this little river feeding into Lake Michigan. You can just see that little nubbin in the middle of the screen. I think that's a lighthouse. Not a bad place for lunch at all. Here's the mystery spot. The tourist attraction's so good, they won't tell you what it is. And you mustn't forget Deer Ranch, where you can see real, live deer. That wooden observation tower is pretty cool, though. There's the Mackinac Bridge. I understand it's open great and pretty exciting on a motorbike. Let's go see what that's all about. It's just a little guy. Look at him. Are you ready for the fun part? Because here comes the fun part. You would think they would have figured out some sort of electronic tolling by now. Toll booths are the worst on a motorcycle, but I did my best to speed the process up. Thank you. You too. Such speed and grace. It's a pretty long bridge, 5 miles long, and the road is 200 feet above the water here. Let's see what this open grate business is all about. Look, I'm riding over a boat. This bridge sounded a lot more sketchy than I found it to be, but I think my experience would have been vastly different if it had been windy. Now I just had to find a place to put my left glove back on. I had an uneventful and pretty boring blast down through Michigan's Mitten to get to my uncle's house for the night, where I found photos of the albino deer that I had seen earlier in the trip in his and my mom's childhood town. I rode 383 miles today and saw 1 Sasquatch and 5 lighthouses. Good morning from Lansing, Michigan. It's the last day of the trip, and I have a 650-mile highway slog to get home. Holy Toledo, Batman! I seem to have missed the welcome sign for Ohio. The shiny new Toledo Skyway Bridge will have to do, I suppose. Hey, wait your turn. I like this guy's style. Only 422 miles to go. Ohio is home to the lesser-known subcontinental divide. Ohio is also home to a series of very round travel centers, each indistinguishable from the others. And since you were on the toll road, they are the only game in town. I'm not old, you're old. Let's see if I can channel Batman to get home faster. Guess not. Looks like 6 more hours of highway then. I missed the Pennsylvania sign, too. Well, that's quite a contraption. Nice to see some elevation change again. I had always assumed that onions would be transported in an enclosed trailer. I'm pretty happy to be on this side of the highway right about now. Look, more onions! I'm right near the old rail line I explored on the second day of the trip. The viaduct is over there on the left. My fuel stop put me behind the onions.
What a fucking dick. That's not the business store.
That looks like a fun weekend. I'm pretty sure that's the Susquehanna River. The all-knowing Google detected some traffic and sent me on some back roads through the Poconos. There is no way that apartment building is not haunted. After 2 weeks of mostly amazing riding, I made it back to New Jersey. Right around here is the childhood home of Liver-Eaten Johnson. He supposedly looked after the crazy woman in Crazy Woman Canyon. Not today, Mr. Deer. I am way too close to home for that. The deer are out this evening, aren't they? It's been a long day of grinding on the highway, 640 some miles or so. But happy to be home. Looking forward to the next adventure. Well, I made it. 6,193 miles in 2 weeks. What an awesome trip. If you're still here, thanks for coming along.